Welcome everybody to the April 27th, 2023 Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Roll call, please. Don't judge, okay? Roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Are there any conflict of interest statements?
Nope.
No? Approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 20th, 2023.
I recommend the approval of the minutes for the meeting for April 20th, 2023.
And I will concur. Bid openings, I see none. Moving on to number 6, matters from other department heads or their representatives. Mr. Button looks like he has something. Yes, sir.
Yesterday afternoon, the request from the Indiana Toll Road has come in. They are going to do a bridge inspection on their crossing of Chicago Street on May the 3rd. It's purely for a bridge inspection. They're going to have to keep one lane open in each direction. I wrote a letter for the board's consideration, and I'd ask for your approval of that action.
Okay.
I recommend the approval of the bridge inspection and one-lane closure by the Indiana Toll Road on May the 3rd.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Anything else from department heads or their representatives? Okay, moving on to correspondence. Letter A, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting the approval of the agreement with J.J. Newell Concrete Contractors for the citywide sidewalk removal and replacement program.
We rebid the sidewalk program for this year. J.J. Newell was the low responsible and responsive bidder for the project, and I would ask for your approval of the agreement. This just sets the agreement in place. We will fund this work through future action by the Capital Improvements Board. Normally, we're at about $600,000 a year. We haven't really decided what budget will be for this year. So this just sets the agreement without cost at this point.
Okay.
I recommend that we accept the correspondence from Mr. Button, and I recommend the approval of the agreement.
And I concur. Letter B, correspondence received from Dean Button recommending the award for the quote for materials for the Hammond Sportsplex be awarded to Dyer Construction in the amount of $132,906.
Monday at 2 p.m. we received quotes from 3 local businesses, and they were opened and read aloud in the lobby of City Hall. Dyer Construction was the low responsive and responsible quoter to bring in the aggregate, the geofabric, and the sand for the new outdoor volleyball court that's being constructed at the Hammond Sportsplex, and I'd ask for your approval.
Okay. I recommend the approval for Mr. Button as submitted.
And I will concur. Letter C, correspondence received from Dean Button recommending the award for the quote for fence materials and installation for the Hammond Sportsplex be awarded to Hammond Fence in the amount of $26,500.
Monday quotes were solicited for an opening on Monday for the fence for the Sportsplex outdoor volleyball courts. One quote was received. It was reviewed by the engineering department and found to be responsive and responsible. The recommendation from Brian Erminger from the Sportsplex was to accept the 6-foot high fence instead of the 8-foot high fence, and to provide an ornamental segment that was closer to the building as an alternate to the original quote, and that alternate was suggested by the vendor, Hammond Fence, and so Brian thought, after discussion with the vendor, that would be, appropriate, look better, and the engineering department agrees, and so we would recommend awarding this quote to the Hammond Fence.
Excuse me. I recommend the approval submitted by Mr. Button.
And I will concur.
Thank you.
And I did want to say, Dean, thanks for taking care of that issue on Kennedy Avenue that we talked about, 7400.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to letter D, correspondence received from William Short, Chief of Police, requesting the approval for the following officers to be promoted to the the rank of third-class patrolman effective April 28, 2023. Officer Brandon Kerwin, Officer Alex Mendieta, and Officer Zachary Still, recommending that Officer Zachary Retzky be promoted to the rank of second-class patrolman effective April 21st, 2023, and recommending that Karina Acevedo be appointed as a probationary member effective April 20th, 23.
I recommend the approval of Chief Short's request.
And I concur. Moving on to letter E, correspondence received from Ron Novak requesting approval of the proposed license agreement and right-of-way permit with Kennedy Golo and its representative, Eagle Environmental, to allow access to city property near 7305 Kennedy Avenue to perform additional environmental sampling at the various properties.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Novak.
This is a continuation of an agreement that was entered into last year. IDEM has come back to the company and indicated that they need to expand sampling on city property to determine what's called the extent of contamination. So they've been good contractors thus far. They've shared their information to us, and I recommend that we approve this so that the remediation can be identified and comprehensively and then corrected.
Thank you.
I recommend the approval of Mr. Novak's request as submitted.
And I will concur.
Thank you.
Mr. Novak. Okay, moving on to letter F. Correspondence received from Chris Campbell, Director of IT, recommending the approval of the renewal contract with Comcast for internet service and the approval with Civic Plus for the 311 app.
Yes, Mr. President, I reviewed this with IT and discussed it with them. I'd request its approval as presented.
Thank you.
I recommend the approval for Mr. Campbell as presented.
And I will concur. Correspondence received requesting a rental registration hearing. 2 weeks out.
The 12th. I recommend we set the status for May the 12th for the rental hearings. 11th, I'm sorry, excuse me, 11th.
And I will concur. Yeah, she usually does. That's what she looked at, yeah. Okay, moving on to letter H. Correspondence received from Carlos Alvarez from Mihenti Entertainment requesting permission to charge a parking fee of $20 per vehicle at the Hammond Civic Center for May 13th, 2023. This event has been approved through the Park Board.
That's correct, Mr. President. The event has been approved. The Park Board is excited about the event. It's supposed to be a pretty large event, so as long as he's using parking lots that are owned and controlled by the Civic Center, or I'm sorry, owned and controlled by the Park Department, we have no objection to that. If he had, I would just advise him that the parking lot across the street is actually controlled by the school city.
Gotcha.
So he just needs to make sure he's getting the correct approvals, but we don't have any problem with the fee.
Okay, thank you.
I recommend the approval of Mr. Alvarez's request for the parking.
And I will concur. Moving on to letter I, correspondence received from Montessori Children's Schoolhouse, 5935 Holman Avenue, requesting a school zone sign on Waltham Street.
Hi, yes, sorry. Having a side conversation with Linda. This is, I was advised of this at the Park Board meeting, that they were going to, they asked for the procedure, and I informed them that the best procedure would be to send it to the Board of Public Works, and the Board of Public Works would either refer it to engineering or otherwise, allow for that. I know that, so, it's a school zone around Montessori.
I recommend we refer this request to engineering for review.
And I will concur. Okay, matters from board members, you have anything?
No vicissitudes.
No vicissitudes? Okay. New business, letter A, agreement to rehabilitate property located at 1246 Indiana Street, submitted for approval.
You should have the signed agreement, I hope. If you do, we'd request its approval as presented.
It is signed?
And I believe there's a date on it of probably sometime in July or August
Let's see,
at the top.
July 28th.
Okay, if we could have a status right before that.
Right before it. You want the 27th, like right before it, or the 20th?
Let's go with the 20th.
The 20th, okay.
Thank you.
I recommend the agreement to rehabilitate the property at 1246 Indiana be set for status for 7/20 of 2023.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, no, I was too, though. I concur. Moving on to letter B, notice of hearing to recover cost incurred by emergency action under IC Code 36-7-9-9.
Okay, this is, you may recall this property. It was up before the board for emergency action, I want to say last year. It's a property with a shared wall right across from Purdue Northwest. I believe the address is on there. It's on 169th Street, 2311.
2331.
2331, okay.
Yes.
2331, 169th. And there was a request made due to, there being some significant odors and junk in that property. There was a request through Councilman Werpel, because the neighbor requested there to be something done about it, and there is no contact with the owner. And so we asked Mr. Kearney under the emergency, the board gave emergency authorization under that statute that's on the 36799, I believe.
Yes.
To move forward. And Mr. Kearney then received 2 quotes. He brought the quotes back the following week. The board approved the quote. I believe it was with CerviClean or something like that. And we recently were informed by Councilman Werpel that the person who wants to purchase the property is concerned about making sure that they're able to pay that amount back to the city. So this is the statutory hearing that the law department is requesting through, or the inspections department is requesting, so that we can put a lien on the property in the amount that's on the sheet, which I don't have in front of me, but I believe it's $29,000 and some change. And that's
$29,342 is the amount, yes.
okay, great, $29,342. We do have the invoice for that. I know that Linda has provided that, or should be providing that to you. That's the amount that the city paid. We'd request that the board give authority to approve that as the amount of work that was done on the property, and that to go ahead and have the ability to then inform the county auditor and record the lien. So if you could just approve, if you could approve the amount as the amount of work that was done on the property by the city, and then give the authority to the law department to notify the county of that amount.
Gotcha.
I recommend the approval of the recovery costs in the amount of $29,342, and also the law department to move forward on collections.
Okay, and I will concur. Moving on to letter C, request from Inspections Department for approval of a $2 increase to cut and clean pay scale applied to each lot size tier.
Yes, Mr. Farrell and Mr. Kearney worked on this letter to you. It's been looked at and approved by the mayor as well, or at least the concept has been approved by the mayor. It's a long overdue, I think, I would call it long overdue increase to our vendors that do cut and clean throughout the city, which we appreciate. They do a lot of work for the city, and we want to make sure that they are compensated accordingly. So this gives them a little bit of bump in their work. So we would request its approval.
Do we know, Mr. Smith, if it's been approved by the controller? Is she aware of it?
She is aware.
She's aware of it?
Well, Ms. Greenwell, she is, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
I recommend the approval of from the Inspections Department for the $2 increase to the cut and clean pay scale.
And I will concur. Moving on to letter D, right-of-way permits. There's 4 of them received from engineering submitted for approval.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Mr. Gordish.
So 2 of these permits are from Vicama, just working on water services for residential properties. Another one being from Astound, which is formerly Wide Open West. At State Street, they're going to put some overhead cable and some bore, which it was approved by the water department. And last but not least is another train one. So Waltham Street, approximately 4 days. It's going to be the same detour, shut it down. They're putting a track and the pads in for the rail. So hopefully in the future, we won't have to do much there.
Okay.
So, and forthcoming, there's going to be several other ones coming.
Okay.
So they're in that particular phase of putting the tracks in across the intersection. So I would recommend approval.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I recommend the approval of the right-of-way permits as submitted.
And I concur. Moving on to letter E, disposal authorizations received from Hammond Police Department, submitted for approval.
None of these are squads, right?
Yeah, just a quick glance, there's nothing in there, she said, so.
I recommend the approval of the disposal authorizations from HPD.
And I will concur. Moving on to letter F, garage sales submitted for approval. This one's, there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple of them. Let me see what I'm, 1 day, 2 days. Yeah, they're all good.
I recommend the approval of the garage sales as submitted.
And I will concur. Letter G, business license waivers for University Eye Institute and U-Haul of Hammond.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are working on negotiating these with the business license owners. So Linda has a form that she has sent over to the business owners for approval and signature. I didn't want to put it in front of you until we get signature. So if we could bump these out. Linda, what do you want, 2 weeks? 2 weeks, please.
So the 11th. Is 11th okay?
Status for May 11th.
That's fine.
Okay. I recommend that we move the status on the University Eye Institute and U-Haul to May 11th.
And I will concur. Thank you. Number 10, old business. Letter A, status for Jimenez Auto.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
We were here about a month ago, I think the last time on status, and at that point, we had a tenant that was clearing out of one of the units that we intended to move the business to. That tenant is completely gone. My client's been able to relocate some of their business property to the new location, which my understanding right now, it's just being used as storage. There's no operations yet. We have not yet obtained a business license for the new location. I have talked to the controller's office about that. They recommended that we make sure that all of our plans are approved with Brian Poland before we jump through those hoops. I've been in communication with Brian as of last month. We had a plan from our architect, Bruce Kujawa, that was sent out to him. Brian requested some revisions to that to clarify some parking issues. I've just got a new plan from Bruce earlier this week, which was forwarded to Brian. Brian has reviewed it and raised a few inquiries concerning the structure of the lot and the parking area. There's a corner of the lot that I think we are probably going to have to use for required parking. That corner is not paved, is my understanding. The majority of the lot is, but that portion is not. So Brian has pointed out some paving issues and some drainage issues that go along with that, as well as compliance with the landscaping requirements. Some of those things, in particular landscaping, depending on Brian's position, he's here, I know, so maybe he can speak to that. I may end up asking for a variance on that. I don't know what we're going to have to do about the paving of the lot. But Brian, is there anything that you wanted to add based on your review?
Good morning.
Morning.
Attorney Christian is very good at explaining what conversations that we've had, but I'll just modify a couple of things,
Okay.
or clarify a couple of things. Yes, as far as the number of parking spaces that we've determined that is going to be adequate. And yes, I did raise the question of the paving of the lot that, or the portion of the lot that is not currently paved. That is a part of the zoning ordinance requirements that parking lots are properly paved and drained. And so that is a requirement that we really can't waive. As far as the landscaping, there is a whole formula of what kind of landscaping is required around any parking facility. And we can discuss that. We haven't really had a detailed discussion of what that is. It's not something typically we do a lot of variances on, but there's some things that we might be able to do administratively and emphasize certain areas as opposed to others. One of the other questions that was in discussion was the presence, at least based on looking on the aerials, a lot of boats being parked there. And some of them were parked in front of that back building, and there would be an issue of where would be the proper location for that and any associated issues of making sure that that is properly addressed.
And maybe I could have my clients address the boat issue. My understanding is the boats were stored there pursuant to a private agreement that was put in place with the previous owner. Can you talk to what's going on with the boats? Are they still there?
To be honest, the boats they're usually parked there during the winter, and he had a previous agreement with the previous owner that stored his boat there, and I think it was like 2 other boats, like his son's, and but it's boat season already, so they're already taking out their boats, and they're not going to be there anymore.
So we would have to make sure that all the boats are removed, and is that a recurring thing? Are they going to come back next winter, or is it just an agreement?
They usually come back next winter, but if we can't have them there, obviously we're able to tell them, we can't have them parked there anymore. They can't store them there anymore. It just depends on what.
If the city finds the boats impermissible, I think it's just a matter of us saying, hey, you can't park your boats there. We can't do this anymore. And that's that.
Well, it seems like an easy fix. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that was possible, that's all. So, and other than the boat issue and the lot issue, so do we need time then, Mr. Poland? Do we need time for?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of hammering down our plan approval at this point. Like I said, Bruce gave me the last copy of the plan like Monday. I asked for it right after our last hearing when we knew there were some revisions that would be called for, and I just got it and sent it over to Brian. There's some issues that need to be worked out, and I need to talk to my clients about obtaining a paving contractor if that's going to be a make or break for the city, so.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and this is maybe a better question for Brian than Christian, but if there's, let's say landscaping is the one thing left over, is that going to prevent them from getting in and getting the business license? And would that be something you would hold up? Or can they get in, begin operating, and then work through the landscaping variance? Because as you know, we've got several violations that are currently going on that we've held off on, and we're very close to getting everything moved across the street.
Let me just kind of step back to the boat issue. I think part of the question is it storage or is it sales? That becomes a zoning question. And so that's one thing I want to make sure that we get clarified, and does that trigger going to the Board of Zoning Appeals or not? Okay. As far as Attorney Smith's question, as we are starting to go through the review of the business licenses, the zoning, my department signs off on them, and we can identify the outstanding items and work with a time frame upon which they can be completed. That will still allow the business license review process to continue past us. And if we tie it to occupancy or some other official trigger, we can work through that. Obviously, it's going to take a while for paving to actually be completed. That's just something that we can work through.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's kind of the answer I was hoping for, so I appreciate that from Brian. And then I would just, if that's information that Christian needs, that can continue getting the business license moving, I think that's important. I would like to see if Christian can give us a kind of a, I'd like to see a drop dead date when they're over there and or they're gone from where their current location and across the street. So if there's any date that we could set, I think that would be appropriate at this time because it seems like things are moving well and we don't want to drag this on unnecessarily. We'd set another status, but I would like to see if we can get a drop dead date.
30 days enough?
Probably for the status maybe, but I want to see what they have to say about it.
Do you folks know when you could be relocated?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I would
But
say
is that the date, that's?
that's the date they believe they can be totally moved. So why don't we set it for status? You want us, would you prefer a status prior to that date to give an update, or would you prefer a status after that date to confirm that they're over?
I think maybe prior to that date would be best, because
Yep.
if there's any hiccups, I'd like to be
Agreed.
able to bring it to you before.
They said 30 days. They said at least 30 days they need. So what I was going to say is maybe we set the drop dead date at like 45 out, and then we set a status for 30. If that's okay with everyone.
So we can do June 1st or June 15th. I won't be here on the 8th, and I don't want to miss this.
Yeah, why don't we set the drop dead date as like June 15?
Okay,
That gives them a little more than 30 days. And then why don't we set the status for June 1?
June 1st, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Is that acceptable?
I think that works for me.
Okay. Brian, good?
It'll be a little tight because of some personal things that are going on.
Okay. And then they're going to apply for the business license before that date?
I can have them apply for the business
Yeah.
license right now. I contacted the controller's office a couple of weeks ago and asked them, should we be doing this now or should we wait? And they told me, wait until we get Brian's feedback. So if we've got the go-ahead, then I'll just.
Yeah, I
get that.
think, I think because it goes to zoning first, Brian will obviously be aware of it and keep an eye out for it, and then he'll make any notes on it that he needs that'll keep the process going.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, because of the issues Mr. Poland has, do we want to do June 15th and June 22nd? It
Are
sounds,
you good on June 1st or no?
I have some personal things going on right around
Can we set it the week before for status? Same issue? Okay.
June 15th and June 22nd, is that okay?
15th,
Status for June 15th,
Status for the.
excuse me, status for the 15th, yes, final date, the 22nd. Is that okay, Mr. Burkbach?
That should be good. I may or may not be here, but I should have somebody from my office
Okay.
who could.
Okay, that's what we're going to do then.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
I recommend that we set the status for, what was it, Jimenez Auto for June 15th with
Yeah,
the
there's-
final date of June 22nd.
Excuse me.
One other thing, Christian, I want to make sure you're aware of is that the origin of this whole process was that they were behind on their business license fees. So one thing that has to be resolved at the end of this, or when we buy, let's say by June 15th, and please feel free to contact me or Mr. Farrell because he can update you on the timeline. But there are a bunch of late fees owed that we will be happy to negotiate and resolve. But there are some, it's $200 a year late fee plus $100 just to register. So he'll give you he'll give you the information, and then we just need to make sure that's part of the global resolution. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. Yes, oh, yeah, we did. Okay, then letter B, status for Miss Carol Square Price, use of property at 7147 Kennedy Avenue.
Is that a typo?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Smith, we know that the park board has already denied the request, so I think therefore we're kind of swayed to move that direction also.
Yes, this is the request for doing something inside the park.
Yes.
Yeah, Park Department denied the request. I didn't know that, but if they have, then
We're going to deny the
I would
request.
absolutely
Okay.
agree with.
We're going to deny it also. Okay.
I recommend the denial of Mrs. Price's request for the use of the park at 7147 Kennedy.
And I will concur. Shoot, you. Letter C, status 5235 State Line.
This is the old Junior Music Store.
Hi, good morning.
The owner, of course, was here last week, and we wanted to make sure we got it on the right date. So I'm assuming that they'll be giving, Mr. Flores will be giving an update as to where we're at.
Okay,
Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
I just wanted to say, we finally got the permits. Mr. Soto is not here because he's actually working on the property. So we've gotten the permits. He's working on getting the plumbing done, and by the end of this month or in 2 weeks, he's saying how it's going, and he's doing the brickwork as well. Yes, and I have someone that will...
The best I can say is I can confirm that the permits were pulled on April 20th. And speaking with Attorney Smith, their rehab agreement's going to expire May 1st. So it looks like we'll have to grant them some kind of extension.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll get how many, are you thinking 60 days you'll be done? Or,
Mr. Soto said 3 months.
all right, so we'll give a 90-day extension, but it'll have to be signed by Mr. Flores. We'll get it in front of the board next week.
Yeah.
We'll be emailing you an extension, okay?
Thank you.
So we're going to grant a 90-day extension and then set it for status for 3 months?
Correct.
Okay.
So I recommend granting the 90-day extension on the
Rehabilitation.
rehabilitation agreement for 5235 State Line, and what we setting for status, another 90 days?
No. July 13th, is that somewhere in that range? July, you want to go the next week, July 20th? Is that okay? No, that,
I mean, we'll be here on the 13th.
I'm okay with the 13th.
You'll wait?
Yeah, probably, really.
Yeah,
Well, let's just do it the 13th.
okay.
Okay, and also I'd like to set the status for July 13th.
And I will concur.
Thank you very much, everyone, for all your help. I apologize that I had to get to this point, but I appreciate all the help and support that I've gotten.
We appreciate that you keep moving right along, so thank you very much. Okay. Okay, letter D, notice of violation 7235 through 41 Calumet Avenue.
I'm not sure if the board recalls, this is the commercial property in Calumet, which is contained for residential apartments that the city inspected and found non-compliant with international building code requirements for occupancy. And I believe the original owner, Don Pipping Investments Family Ltd., they sold the property on contract to Ms. Herrera. So I believe there's a legal, dispute between those two. I know we've continued this hearing quite a few times to see how that would resolve itself. However, I feel that moving forward with the presentation of our findings during the inspection is going to have no bearing one way or the other. That's a civil matter that they can deal with themselves. So I would request that if they did submit a request for continuance, that the board made them aware that we would like to proceed with the hearing to present our evidence and our facts discovered, and then whoever's going to be responsible for fulfilling that order is going to be a civil matter between them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what we need to do, I'm not sure why we haven't heard from either Mr. Peterson or, I don't remember who the other attorney was. Is there a letter for it? Okay. So, but I think we should notify both sides that we do intend on moving forward with the hearing and set the matter for hearing for presentation of evidence.
Both parties were sent a notice of violation in their name.
Which is Attorney Peterson and Don Pipping, is that the other person?
Don Pipping and then Norma Herrera. Those were the two individuals noticed. They secured their legal counsel afterwards.
So I think we need to let legal counsel know that we're going to go forward with the hearing on X date, and we'll go forward with it.
Gotcha. Do you know what that date is that you have in mind? How far out?
Give them probably 30 days.
That's fine.
And then that'll give them enough time to have it on their calendars in the May.
Is May 25th, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
I recommend that legal notification be sent to the attorneys representing the parties involved at 723541 Calumet and set it for status for May 25th of
For hearing.
2023.
For hearing, right?
Yes,
For
please.
hearing.
Could I request June 1st?
Sure.
They've got a conflict on it.
We thought about that date anyway, so,
Do I need to make
Yeah.
a motion? Do I need to rescind it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll rescind that recommendation and make a recommendation, same as before, but we're going to change the date to June 1st of 2023.
Thank you.
I'll concur. Thank you. Letter E, rehab status for 2314 Indianapolis.
I don't see the owner, but I was in the property yesterday. Interior demolition has been majority completed. Electrician's supposed to be pulling their permits and plumbing as well, so that's the holdup now, is getting the electrician and plumbing in. When does their agreement expire?
July 11th. So I think we're good. I think we just set this for status, but I think we can probably need the next status sometime right before July 11th.
July 6th? Okay.
I recommend that we set the status for 2314 Indianapolis Boulevard for July 6th of 2023.
And I concur. Moving on to letter F, rehab status for 4919 Pine.
This property was just issued a permit yesterday or the day before. 4/26 is what our records indicate for a portion of the work, and I'm not sure when their rehab agreement expires.
So that's the purpose of today, was to have the rehab agreement signed, and I think we emailed it to the owner.
I didn't get the rehab agreement.
You didn't,
For
okay.
the extension part, I didn't get that.
This goes through July 1st. Do you want to look at it for a little bit while we're going through other stuff, and maybe we could recall this?
Sure.
And if you're okay with it, you can just have it right there. And if you're okay with it or have any questions, let me know, otherwise we can actually just sign it. And we can, okay?
Okay, we're going to pass on letter F then, and we're going to go to letter G, rehab status for 4749 Hickory. Thank you.
Yeah, after they're done with them, yeah. You got to set it.
While you're looking at the pictures, this agreement was approved January 26th of this year. No bond has yet to be posted, whether cash or site improvement bond. The building department, we did issue a permit in error, and a stop work order was posted, and we have not had any contact with, to my knowledge, with the owner as far as the status of getting the bond posted.
I do have, I have had contact back in a year ago, March, with Michael Oshkosh, who was the lawyer for them, but nothing since that date. I don't show a rehab agreement on this property. If there's a rehab agreement, that needs to be built. And I believe, from my understanding, talking to Mr. Castro, there's been no progress on this property.
Sounds about right.
There's been a little work done on the inside, it appears, but
With or
nothing.
without permits?
Right, the
Without
stop work order
permits?
was posted.
Yeah, that was the
within days.
permit that was issued in error.
When was that?
I don't have a date on when we issued that. I want to say it was February, but don't hold me to it. We issued it in error. Stop work order was posted. What day was that? Yeah, I posted a stop work order February 14th, looks like Valentine's Day, because no bond had been posted. So it was our error in posting or issuing the permit. Permit would be honored once the bond had been posted.
I'm just wondering, is there, why would there be a requirement for bond? Because I don't have a rehab on this. Is there a rehab?
I have,
notes showed-
our notes show
There is
there's
a
one,
rehab?
yes.
Okay, maybe I just have a copy. Okay, so the rehab's expired.
Yeah, rehab would have been expired, say, yesterday at 4/26 at 3 months.
Okay, so I need to send a letter basically letting them know that the rehab's expired, they haven't done the work, and we're gonna go ahead forward with the bid.
Okay. Are you going to give them a chance possibly to extend the agreement or no?
We'll see if they
See what,
respond.
gotcha.
Yeah, see what the response is, and if they can figure out a bond in what we feel is a timely manner, maybe we can keep from creating another empty lot.
There's no action needed by the board.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, do we need to continue on, or do we want to go back to Pine? Are you ready, ma'am?
Sign it? Need a pen? There you go.
So we're just approving that agreement, Mr. Smith?
Yes, you may remember Ms. Mitchell from last week, I think.
Yes.
And she's the owner and wants to rehab the property, and we're happy to allow her to do that. The expiration of the rehab agreement is July 1st, and so that would be, we'd like a status date sometime just before that, if we could.
June 29th or June 22nd?
Do you have a preference?
June 22nd is fine.
Okay. So we're approving it and then set it for status, yeah.
Is that the rehab agreement?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, I recommend that we approve the rehab agreement for 4919 Pine and set this matter for status on June 22nd, 2023.
And I will concur. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, good luck. And we'll make sure to send you a copy of that, right? Do we have an email?
Okay, moving on to number 11, rental registration hearings. Looks like we have 4319 Torrance.
This was a property address that was scheduled for last week when we received a call requesting a continuance. I believe the law department said there was an emergency with the family, so it was reset for today's date. I had reached out asking for the individuals to provide proof of ownership because that was the concern I uncovered while doing the research for the property address. Lake County has it under the ownership of one Miss Gertrude McCullum as the only owner or record. However, Miss Everett, Linda Everett, is the individual who filled out and requested the rental registration late fee appeal hearing. So seeing as though nobody appears on behalf of the property, I request that the board deny the appeal.
For 2022, Nick?
Yes, 2022.
I recommend the denial of the late rental registration fee for 4319 Torrance.
So we're going to deny the appeal and apply the $500 late fee?
Yes, please.
Okay, and I will concur.
I have the paperwork here. I just wasn't.
I'll
I was
sign it
waiting
afterwards.
for see if they appeared to provide proof of ownership. So, thank you.
No problem. Number 12, meetings open to the public. Would anybody like to speak? Don't see anybody, so,
I recommend that we adjourn the meeting.
and I will concur.
That's some vicissitudes.
That's a lot of vicissitudes. Thank you, everyone.